Hello, everyone. It's Brian here in Toronto. Hope you had an excellent weekend. Now, this video is kind of like an add-on to the last video I did. Oh, by the way, I'm wearing my Louis Riel T-shirt. It says "Keep It Riel." If you're Canadian, you're going to know who this guy is. If you're maybe from outside of Canada, you might not know who he is. It has nothing to do with today's video. Just that I happen to notice I'm wearing it. So in the last video I did, it was for Alex's contest at Beer and Vinyl, and the idea was to show 5 records that reminded you of people that were important to you or loved ones, that kind of thing. And of course, after I made the video, I realized I didn't mention my mother at all in the video, which is like, what kind of son am I? Now, she died in late 2011, so but I was thinking about her, and especially in relationship to my father. My father, I have a very clear understanding of the music he liked and didn't like. My mother is was a little more mercurial, for example. She would often just sort of exist in the space where music was being played, and very rarely had a comment about it. Um, but she did have her likes, and I'm going to mention 3 records at the end that remind me of her for for strange reasons. But before I get there, I just thought I'd give you a sense of the music she liked. So one of her favorite singers was a guy called Freddie Fender, who is, yes, a country singer, but he's also been credited with rock music. I think swamp pop and Tex-Mex are also music that are words that would describe his music. And I wasn't sure if she liked the way he looked or liked the music. So you should look up a photo of Freddie. Maybe I will put something up here or over here if I can remember. So Freddie Fender was one that she really loved. She loved a singer called Charlie Pride, who again was a country western singer, an African American country western singer. And I didn't know until recently that he was signed to a New York Yankees farm team. So he was a baseball player as well. I think he was a pitcher. That didn't really work out. So he became I guess he fell back on his singing career. My mother liked Charlie Rich. She was also generally a fan of country music. My grandfather used to call square dances, so that was interesting. So she liked country music. Her favorite singer was probably Engelbert Humperdinck. Now, I hadn't I had never looked him up, but I looked him up just a few minutes ago because I wanted to see how he was described, because I wasn't sure how to characterize his music. And All Music came up with one of the best quotes I've ever seen. They refer to him as one of the finest middle of the road balladeers around. I just love that. Fine middle of the road balladeer. That's fantastic. I guess maybe her 3 favorites would be Conway Twitty, Loretta Lynn, and Glenn Campbell. Those are probably the tops of her lists. So that's the kind of music she liked, but she would often just sit there and absorb the music we were listening to, and you never were really sure if she liked it or didn't like it, with certain exceptions. So I'm going to mention 3 records that remind me of her. And they remind me of her not because she liked the music, but because she didn't like the music. So the first one is this. I was quite young when this came out, but I do remember watching a news program, and there was a segment on the Sex Pistols, and it had to do with well, I guess what some people thought was, I don't know what the correct word here is, like the rebellious nature of it, or the anti-establishment nature of it. And they showed images of people dressed in this kind of Pistols fashion. Now, I wasn't sure if my mother objected more to the fashion or to the music. Now, they did play a couple of clips, so we got to hear, 5 seconds of God Save the Queen. I think that really horrified her. After all, in her demographic, she sang God Save the Queen at school, that was our national anthem in Canada until I'm going to forget the date, but until some time. And there was always this respect for the monarchy, and to hear that song, I think it really riled her up. And the fashion, like the way people dressed. Anarchy in the UK. I'm not sure she knew quite what anarchy was, but this record I got later, quite a bit later, because I was a bit young when this came out. But I just remember her being. My dad sat there quietly and watched the news story without any visible um, discomfort, but my mother seemed really agitated by this, and it could also have been the title of the album and the name of the band, for that matter, that she objected to. I mean, I guess music had always been really caring in some ways. Like even 50s rock was very uncontroversial, and with the rise of punk music. I think that was something that maybe offended her. The next record has a kind of a funny story attached to it because we had an 8-track tape player, and sometimes I would go out at yard sales and I'd buy albums or 8-tracks. That's how I got my early Humble Pie records and Peter Frampton and Grand Funk Railroad. All those things came from lawn sales. And one day I bought an 8-track tape of this record, Van Morrison's TB Sheets, which is some sort of weird comp. Because the title track TB Sheets appeared on his debut record. But so I used to play this on 8-track fairly often because I didn't have that many 8-tracks. It was my dad had a collection of them, and I had a handful, and this is one of them. So whenever I had the chance, I would play one of mine, which was this Van Morrison album called TB Sheets. And at the time, I had no idea where that song came from, that it had been on his debut record. But this is something I played quite frequently. And I remember one day looking through the stack of 8-tracks that we had. There weren't that many. My sister had Led Zeppelin 4, I recall. My brother had some Elvis ones. I had a Rolling Stones one. I forget what else I had. I had Holly's 8-track, as it happens. So one day I'm looking through the 8-tracks and I can't find this 8-track anywhere. And I'm saying, Father, I said, Mom, have you seen any 8-tracks that somewhere else that aren't in the stack? She goes, no. I said, well, I'm looking for this one by Van Morrison called TB Sheets. And she goes, oh, that one. I threw it in the garbage. I was like, why did you throw it in the garbage? And her answer was, that song is disgusting. Now, if you don't know this song, it's kind of a kind of trippy song. But the thing she objected to is, he sings the cool room, Lord is a fool's room. And I can almost smell your TB sheets. I can almost smell your TB sheets on your sick bed. You say, I want a drink of water. I want a drink of water. I went to the kitchen to get me a drink of water. I gotta go, baby. And I can almost smell your TB sheets. It goes on like that. It's a pretty good song, in my opinion. I don't know what it means, really. But she was absolutely horrified by this song. And she just threw it in the garbage. I guess she couldn't take it anymore, and she threw it out. I remember seeing a video by some guy in the VC years ago. His name was Dr. Deadwax. I think it was him, who said either he or his friend, his mother confiscated Pink Floyd's The Wall because his mother objected to it. So, all right. And the last one I'm going to mention is Jethro Tull's Aqualung. I was in my room. This was at a point when I had my own primitive stereo system, and I was listening to music, and Aqualung had just started, and my mom walks in, and it talks about the guy watching little girls with bad intent, and then snot is running down his nose, and my mother she just looked at me and said, do you like that? I said, yeah, it's a good song. Why? She goes, that's disgusting. Those lyrics are disgusting. And she was so angry about it. She did not throw this out, though. She allowed me to keep this. And I guess because at that point I was listening to music in my room and I wasn't sending bad lyrics all over the living room. But she was not a happy man. Or happy man. I'm reading the word man. She was not a happy person when she heard this record. So the funny thing is, in the video for Alex, we were talking about songs or albums that reminded me of people we loved or cared about. And this one, it's also true, except they're kind of like a negative connotations, because in no case did my mother like any of this music, and they were actually my records first, not hers. But the funny thing is, to be honest, most of the music she listened to I did not like. Like, I'm not a fan of Freddie Fender. I listened to that Charlie Pride Greatest Hits 8-track possibly hundreds of times just because it was played endlessly. And so, I can't decide if I haven't heard it for years. If I wonder what my reaction would be hearing it now. But these ones are ones that absolutely remind me of her because she hated them so much. All right. Mother's Day this weekend. So happy Mother's Day. I'll see you in the next one.